Day one,
Right.
Pete Carroll and all the guys from USC, they come up. He was like, all right, enjoy it. But that's over. New regime, new era. And when he wiped it clean, like, was I offended? Like, it was something. It was like an emotion I had to deal with. It was kind of like, all right, I can put that on the back burner, but I didn't really appreciate the deleting of it.
From the EQC studio, welcome to The Top Step with Rowland-Smith.
How we going, mates? Welcome back to another episode of The Top Step. My name is Rowland-Smith. I'm inside the EQC studio. We have got a great show for you this week. Now, if you're a Mariners fan, I guarantee you're probably a Seahawks fan, and you're probably a massive fan of this guy as well. Matt Hasselbeck is joining the show right after the break, and you're probably thinking to yourself, how do you know Matt Hasselbeck? We go way back. Matter of fact, we go way back all the way to 2007, 2008. I know I sound old, but 2010, something happened, and I've kept this secret from him since 2010. I might have to bring that up when he joins me coming right up. Also, I do want to ask him about a nice little paint job the Seahawks decided to do. Mike McDonald, the new head coach, decided down at the training facility. I'm going to ask his thoughts on that as well. That's coming up right after the break, so don't go anywhere. Before we get into all the good stuff with Matt Hasselbeck, we're going to kick it off with the top trends. All right, this week's stat is brought to you by ilovebaseball.org. Go to ilovebaseball.org to see all the amazing things they're doing for young Dominican ball players. Now, Julio Rodriguez, he took Mason Miller deep last week down in Oakland. If you missed it, it was 102.5 mile per hour fastball at the top of the strike zone. And what does Julio do? With 2 strikes on him, by the way, takes him straight away center field. By the way, it was also the fastest thrown pitch for a home run in Major League Baseball this season. And by the way, 102.5, that's the fastest thrown pitch hit for a home run by a Mariners player in the StatCast era. Big thanks also to Mariners PR for digging up some of those numbers. So impressive, right? Especially for Julio Rodriguez. It's been an up and down year for him on the power side of things, but this was so unreal. Like I said, 102.5 at the top of the strike zone. And by the way, we do have a nice little fan-grabbed video. So check this video out. We picked the at-bat up. There's strike 2. Now, Julio at this point is saying to himself, all right, you're going to start to challenge me now because you threw 2 sliders to kick the at-bat off. Wasn't great. The first one missed by a mile, and you kind of had that body language like you weren't super happy. Then you missed the second one. You get a 101 by me. Then, all of a sudden, I'm late on a fastball. So now he's probably thinking to himself, all right, you are going to challenge me. So I love this. Julio turns around, he asks the umpire and says, hey, look, was that a strike? Umpire probably says, yeah. All right. Then he calls time. He says, all right, I need to gather myself because I've got to be sure. I've got to trust the fact he's going fastballs all day long here. So I'm going to try and cheat. If this is a strike, I'm going to be swinging, right? But I know I'm just going to sit fastball. And you kind of have to, too, when the pitch is 100 plus. So this next one, this just misses, right? Julio's probably thinking, oh, I got frozen. No, I'm all good. That was out of the strike zone. Okay, he's sticking with fastballs. I'm probably not going to see a slider. He's not super comfortable with that pitch. Okay, so now I'm going to cheat just a little bit. I kind of have to too. Good swing. Look at that bat speed, by the way. What's that? 76, 80 miles per hour bat speed? Insane. Now he's thinking to himself, he is 100% sure. All right, 2-2 count. I'm not getting a slider here. There is no way he's going option B. I'm getting a hitter, baby. It's going to be at the top part of the strike zone. I've already seen 2 pretty much in the same spot. Thank you. Look at this. Straight backspin. Mason Miller's like, oh, really? Whoops. That was insane, man. I had to watch that video over and over. It was so good, man. Julio Rodriguez is on another planet when it comes to kind of trusting yourself, having that approach and saying, you know what, you're going to challenge me and I'm just going to let it eat. And that's what he did. Big thanks to Chris McCoy at Chris A. McCoy for giving us that video. I love those videos, by the way. When someone can capture that on their iPhone, it is insane. All right, that's all the time we have for top trends. Now let's get into Matt Hasselbeck. He's going to be joining me right after the break. Don't go anywhere. Keep it right here on The Top Step.
I live in Tacoma, and I'm all about the action. From making a run at the tables to multiple pay lines on my favorite machines. Game time. The Sportsbook is better than being on the 50-yard line or sitting courtside. I'm here for it. Emerald Queen Casino, the entertainment capital of the Northwest.
All right, welcome back inside the EQC studios. I've got a special guest and someone I haven't spoke to in forever. We were kind of friends back in the day. I'm going to get into that story, but first of all, I want to welcome Seahawks quarterback Matt Hasselbeck. Matt, how you doing?
What's up, Ryan? What's up, man?
Oh, not much.
Or should I say, good day, mate?
Dude, look at you. Nailed it. I love it. Nailed it.
Did I, or am I just feeding into every stereotype that you get?
No, like, dude, it sounded legit. Now, I've heard plenty of attempts of that, and now I'm telling you, that's up there. It's pretty good. There's some bad ones. I'm not going to lie. There's some bad ones. Now, so many people have, because last couple of days I said, hey, I'm going to have Matt on the show, and I've brought your name up throughout the years, and people are like, how do you two know each other? The way we met was through a mutual friend, Stacy Pressman. Shout out to Stacy. And she's like, she was coming up to Seattle, and she had mentioned, she's like, yeah, I know Matt, I know Sarah really well, this and that. I'm like, oh, cool. She's like, hey, let's go to a Seahawks game. I'm like, for sure. I'd never been to a game, by the way, never been to a game. And sure enough, after the end, she goes, hey, I said, where are we sitting? And she's like, I always sit with Matt's family. I'm like, excuse me? I was legit. I was like, are you kidding? So I had the best time, and then afterwards we hung out. Dude, I went to your house, had a barbecue after the game. It was great.
I think playing in Seattle when I started there, it was one of my favorite things, and it didn't happen a lot, just kind of like you said, but one of my favorite things was getting to know the other athletes in the city, whether it was guys on the Mariners like Raul Ibanez or Jamie Moyer or John Olerud, or there were some great baseball players that came through, but even the Sonics, the Supersonics were in town. I sort of joke, there wasn't room in Seattle for me and KD at the same time is what I would like say to my teammates. They're like, what are you even talking about? Like KD's like, it's just sort of like funny, but it was fun at the time. Like I remember my teammates playing pickup hoops with those guys. I remember even in the Seattle Storm days, when those early days, going and supporting them, the Sounders, when Freddie Lundberg came to town, it was a lot of fun. And I think you pick up little nuggets from people in different sports, what are some things that they hang their hat on. And I think that was kind of like the common bond that we had initially too. Yeah,
for sure. And it's funny too, man, because, coming from Australia and playing baseball, I can mention some baseball names, and you mentioned Ken Griffey Jr. Dude was on The Simpsons, right? But beyond that, there wasn't a whole lot of like name dropping going on. It's like, oh hey, I pitched against Vladimir Guerrero, right? And everyone's like, I don't even know who that is. But when I drop a Matt Hasselbeck, when I drop a hey, I'm going hanging out at his house and like having a barbecue, dude, I had some serious credibility even back in Australia.
It's just different circles. I just like it's music. When I left the Seahawks, I went to the Tennessee Titans, and Tennessee is just like such a Nashville is just such a music city. Like it's crazy. Like it was after the NFL lockout, and like it was like I had 24 hours to find a house, find a school for my kids, and start training camp. And we rented a house from Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, and like it just was like such a different, just like the different circles, And so like I don't know, like a month before you're hanging out with Ichiro, and it was like no big deal to somebody. And then all of a sudden you're with a country music star, and it's like people are freaking out. Like your story about your first Seahawks game. I think that was the first concert that I ever went to when I got to Nashville. Got there, we had like 2 or 3 days of practice, and then we got the night off, and my teammates took me to a Keith Urban concert. And I was like, oh, cool, like, where are we sitting? And they're like, oh, we're in the suite with his family. I was like, oh, like...
I believe that was 2009, maybe, when I first met you, and that was at a time where I didn't know my football history, right? And I remember your wife Sarah talking about the days when you first came to Seattle, and I never forget. I remember this vividly, where she was talking about it was at the Husky Stadium, right? There wasn't Lumen Field at that point. And she was just like, in those days, I'm sitting there going, hold on a minute, like I'm looking at Matt Hasselbeck here as being the dude. And she was talking about back in 2000, 2001, getting there. And playing at Husky Stadium, didn't even have your own place, and she said she was like yelling at people in the stands because people were so angry at like the Seahawks for so many different reasons.
She was probably yelling at me from the stands, like, throw the ball, throw it away. What are you doing? No, it was, listen, 2001 was my first year in Seattle, and it was a great year for Seattle sports, but it wasn't a great year for Seahawks sports. Like, we were a team trying to rebuild a little bit. We were figuring out our stadium situation. We were figuring out our quarterback situation. And the Mariners were amazing. Like, they were amazing that year. They won 100-something games that year. And I could even remember playing in games. Like, we'd be on offense. And, like, I'd be in my cadence, like, green 21, green 21. And all of a sudden, the fans would cheer wildly. And like someone would jump off sides, and it was like, what on earth? What just happened? And it'd be like, Brett Boone hits a double or something like that at the same time, So I don't know. It was cool. Like I can't say that it wasn't cool. It just felt like for me personally, we weren't holding up our end of the bargain in terms of like Seattle sports and what we wanted to be, what we knew we could be, and what I felt like I could be. So yeah, the early years were not easy, and we figured it out eventually and got into our own stadium and then created a home field advantage that was so legit that it makes it feel better now.
Speaking of the Seahawks history, recently Mike McDonald comes in as a new head coach, and there was a big thing a couple of weeks ago, and I've been asked about it, but who better to ask about it? What are your thoughts? If they had the mural, some of the Seahawks history. I don't know how far back the history went. I was trying to look at the.
I do. I do. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, what are your thoughts on the fact they just put a giant white paintbrush straight to it?
Well, I don't know what the reaction was from the players of the Pete Carroll era. I'm not sure what their reaction was. Like, I'm sure everyone had a different opinion. But I'll just take you back to my first day as Pete Carroll as head coach. We had accomplished, I think, a lot of good stuff in Seattle under Mike Holmgren. And, we were really proud of it. In the first day, literally the first day, Pete Carroll comes in, has this awesome team meeting, and he shows this highlight reel of all the good stuff that, like, the Seahawks had done, like, throughout the years and throughout, like, a lot of my time there. And he was like,
this is day one of him coming in and introduce himself.
This is day one.
Right.
Pete Carroll and all the guys from USC, they come up and they show this great highlight reel, like Seahawks, it's awesome. Like, it was super great stuff. And he was like, all right, enjoy it. Like, we honor it, we celebrate it, but that's over. New regime, new era. We're making new memories here, and we're gonna do it a different way. Here's how we're gonna do it. And, like, I remember as a player feeling like I was super proud, and, like, it was super, like, I don't know, like, it was really cool that he honored it. And we really, we were proud of it. And a lot of those people were gone, but, like, still it meant something to us. It was foundational to me personally.
Yeah.
And when he wiped it clean, like, was I offended? Like, it was something. It was like an emotion I had to deal with. It was kind of like, all right, I can put that on the back burner, but I didn't really appreciate the deleting of it. You know what I'm saying? But he honored it. He did such a good job of honoring what it was that I think I was okay with, like, sort of putting it in the archives and saying, hey, clean slate, let's move forward. But I don't know. I think you just gotta do it. I don't know. You got to do it gently and kind of like I guess in summary, I appreciated how Pete Carroll sort of honored the past, but he ripped the Band-Aid off. It wasn't, there was nothing soft and sweet about it.
I don't even know if you realize this, Matt, but 2010, I was having a terrible year in Seattle, like terrible, to the point where I was in Chicago, gave up I can't remember how many runs. The bullpen was dead, so we had nothing. So I just had the sacrificial lamb out there, just giving it up. That night, they're like, hey, look, we have to put you on the Phantom. At the time, it was called the DL, the disabled list, but now the Phantom IL. They don't do it as much anymore, but I don't know if they do it in football. In baseball, If they don't want to have to designate you for assignment, make a transaction, they want to keep you. I'm just going to tell you, sometimes they come up with a little, call it a fake injury. We're playing the White Sox. Give it up. It's terrible. I'm just like in the fetal position in my hotel room afterwards. And I get a text message saying, "Hey, by the way, we're going to put you on the Phantom tomorrow. We'll let you know what your injury is." All right, no worries. I'm walking. I get off the bus. I'm walking into the stadium. I get a text message from Matt Hasselbeck saying, "Hey man, I heard about your back. If you need a back guy, let me know. I've got one for you." And I'm like, oh, okay. That's how I found out what my injury was going to be.
Did you tell me the truth, or did you just lie to me too?
I think I felt so bad, Matt.
Because I heard this story recently, because I think Awful Announcing picked it up and someone sent it to me.
Right. And
I saw it, and I sat there and I'm like, I think he lied to me too. Like, I think you probably were like, "Oh wow, thanks, man. Like, thanks."
I did. I said, "Hey, well, I'm not gonna. Hey, well, listen to this, right?" I said, "Hey, thanks." I'm sitting there, "Oh man, how do I turn around and say hey?" Because the reason why is because I was so appreciative, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you. I was so appreciative of the fact that you actually reached out and said, "Hey man, I've got a back guy for you. The dude is in Vancouver," and I'm like. I was just so
listen, well, you said you had a bad year in 2010. I had a bad year in 2009, and it was really this like back injury that was like, really started in 2008, and I never let it get right. And so I think most people with back injuries, or really any injury, you respect the person that has like, what they're going to have to go through. But in 2008, I think this is true. I don't know if this is true, but I think I was the first ever NFL player on Twitter. And so I was set up in 2008 on Twitter when no one else was on Twitter. And I would get I was like the first to know everything. And so like I probably was like the first, whoever, some reporter, reported it. But that literally came to my phone immediate. And then like I might have even known before you. Like is that what you're saying?
You did. That's what I'm saying. You did.
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's how I found out my back. I literally had to walk around the clubhouse with like a heat pack on my back. Right, but here's the deal. Here's the thing. This is what I'm getting to. A couple of years later, I'm like, I'm working out with Tom House. I'm throwing really hard, man. Like I'm resurrected. Guess what? I hurt my back, and I was going back through my text messages saying, like, oh, who was that back guy he was talking about? And lo and behold, a year I had chronic back issues after that. I had a couple back issues when you text me, by the way. I'll just say, but a year after that. I meet someone at USC. He's like, "Oh, I'm from Vancouver, Vancouver, up in Canada, right?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, hey, you play for the Mariners?" I'm Matt Hasselbeck. I'm like, "Yeah, I know Matt. Like, not like we're best buds, but he goes, "Oh yeah, well, I worked at the place. We helped him out with his back." I'm like, "You are kidding me." So anyway, it was a little bit calmer.
Listen, I developed a pretty awesome team up in Vancouver. To your point about injury reporting, like, what could I tell you that's interesting? Like in the NFL. You have to report the injuries. Like, you have to. They're very, very strict on it. But they can report it sort of like they can get creative on how they report it. So, as an example, like if a player has broken ribs, and it's what happens when you have broken ribs? Well, it actually causes your back to like spasm. And so they can report, back spasms. But you have broken ribs. You know what I mean? And so like the result... The symptom is like, like the entire right side of my like lat is seized up because I have broken ribs. On the injury report, it'll say back spasms. And so like when I was in my 30s, I can remember feeling like a little bit annoyed, like you're making me just sound old. Oh, he's out today with back spasms. And I'm sitting here like, are you kidding me? Like I can't even drive my car. My ribs are broken. I can't turn left. But I'm going to play in this week's game because I'm going to let you inject me with basically Novocaine so I can play in the game. And you're putting out there to the masses, oh, he's old, he has back spasms. Like, I was like, it's annoying. Like, it's annoying. So...
Is there any advantage, like I just mentioned with baseball, that's to keep someone on a roster so you don't have to put him on the waiver wire, someone picks him up. In the NFL, is there any advantage to that?
Yeah, they're sort of protecting you because, like, if the other team knows that you have broken ribs, they're coming at you with, like, the blitz packages of the century that you haven't studied or seen on film. And so if they're game planning like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and all they're seeing on the injury report is like, oh, he's got a back spasms. They're like these coaches, wherever they are, they're probably like, oh yeah, I got back spasms too. No biggie. He'll be fine for Sunday. So like I think there's something where they are protecting you. I think in hockey too, like they'll just say like lower leg injury. They won't say like exactly, because I think like, people will be targeting you or going after it. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's all part of it. Like it's like a push and a pull. Like your pride versus their sympathy that you're gonna get. Like it's like, which would you rather have?
Right. Yeah. So well, I'm glad I cleared that up years and years and years later. Like I said, I don't know. I can't remember if I said, "Hey, Matt, no, it's just a fake."
No, because I've never heard that. So you probably lied to me too. So our friendship that was forming is now like it suffered a little bit of a hit, actually.
I love playing my games and watching my points multiply. I love a good deal with all the perks. Because while I'm shooting for a crown jewel, I collect lots of great gifts along the way. And I'm here for it. Emerald Queen Casino, the entertainment capital of the Northwest.
Yeah, it was good going back to some of those days. Back, God, man, time flies. But it was so.
What was
fun
the
to
name of
catch
the
up.
bar we went to the first time we met? Do you know?
I was gonna bring that, man. I was gonna bring that up. Kangaroo and Kiwi, which, matter of fact, they are a sponsor on the show.
Right.
Hey, you know what? You've talked yourself into it. I'm going to put you to the test here now. You ready? We have a segment, Matt Hasselbeck. We have a segment on this show called "How to Speak Australian." I'm going to give you an Australian word, and you have to try and guess what it is. Okay. So you'll be fine. The How to Speak Australian segment is brought to you by the Kangaroo and Kiwi Australian Pub, which is now in Ballard. It used to be there at Green Lake, and that's right. That's right. It was my birthday. It was at Fan Fest, and I was like, I sent you a text, "Hey, come along," and you rocked up, and I was like, "Oh man, sweet, this is awesome."
Can we even believe that it was really your birthday now? There's a proven pattern.
It was just an excuse.
Was it even your birthday? You're like the guy that you're like, oh, it's his birthday, and they bring the dessert out, like a free dessert.
I don't know if I can believe you anymore. Matt Hasselbeck, I got a word for you. What does the word bludger mean?
Oh, bludger? Oh, yeah, that's an easy one. It's like bludger. I don't know. Let me think. Bludger?
Do you want it in a sentence?
Can you please use it in a sentence?
Okay. Get off the couch and stop being such a bludger.
I think a bludger is someone who plays Call of Duty all day, kind of lazy person, a procrastinator.
Boom. Nailed it.
What do you say?
Yeah, that's it. That was too easy. I gave it away.
I was gonna go funny. And then I was like, I gotta be funny and appropriate. It's a little harder to be funny and appropriate. So
I was expecting another Australian accent, but no, you nailed it. My goodness. No, a bludger. So stop being such a bludger.
You're such a bludger.
So, bludger. That was me in 2010, faking back injuries. I was being a
Boston
bludger.
accent and an Australian accent aren't too far apart.
Hey man, I was playing AAA up in Pawtucket, and I was speaking free and easy without the R. I didn't have to roll the R's. It was great.
She parked a car over there near the garden, and she had to walk all the way to Fenway Park. It was like ridiculous. The cruiser pulled up and gave her a parking ticket. It was wicked. That was wicked.
There it is. See, you have that natural. There's that connection. I'm telling you right now, you have that natural Aussie accent. You'd be able to get off that Qantas jet, the flying kangaroo, and just be right at home. Thanks to the Boston background. Awesome, Matt. This has been great, mate. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and love to have you on again sometime.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, special thanks to Matt Hasselbeck for joining me. Now, we did talk for over an hour. If you want to go check out the full-length interview, it's over at YouTube. Go to @thetopstep.tv. Go subscribe so you see all the other content, all the full-length interviews with everyone who I have on the show. Go check out some past episodes as well. So special thanks to Matt Hasselbeck. Special thanks to Emerald Queen Casino making this show happen. And we will see you next week right here on The Top Step.